Hello and welcome to my session on perfect grocery delivery. To start out, we're going to touch quickly on the industry today as a lot of things have changed in the last 6 months. We're going to look at some of the key players that we're going to keep an eye out for 2020 with a focus on US based companies, as that is where Onfleet is based. I'll also look at general industry challenges. And then because we're a software company, of course, we'll talk about how software can help. So a quick introduction. My name is Justin Miller, Director of Sales at Onfleet. Onfleet is a last mile delivery software company out of San Francisco. My background has been focused on technology, specifically last mile, retail analytics, and mobility. I started my career in public accounting before focusing on technology, and I am based in San Francisco. So let's start with the current state of grocery delivery. US-based online grocery sales grew about 20% last year, and it's no surprise that with shelter-in-place restrictions, the industry is set to grow about 40% this year. So how has the industry responded? To start, there have been significant investments in distribution centers with an emphasis on urban locations. Customer experience and retention are top of mind as so many grocery delivery programs have come online. Customer options have grown exponentially. And lastly, as grocers rushed to meet demand, curbside and in-store pickup and delivery orchestration were critical to spread out the staffing requirements and meet customers' chosen time windows. So no surprise, grocery e-commerce exploded in 2020. The graph on the left showing projections from last year that grocery delivery would capture 20% of grocery sales with sales reaching $100 billion by 2025. With the nationwide shelter-in-place mandates, 80% of consumers did some grocery shopping online. So with that explosion in adoption, it's clear this is not really a fad. This is a new way of thinking for all customers. And grocery delivery specifically is on target in 2020 to exceed $40 to $50 billion. That is up from 20 billion last year. Now, what's interesting about that is that only 9% of those customers are shared between the folks who are operating in delivery today. Tells me a couple things. So still plenty of time for us to keep our customers and acquire new customers, but also that when a customer chooses a service they like, they stick with it. Key players, of course, I like kind of breaking this into major categories when we have big entrenched players, and then we have the venture-backed unicorns, Amazon, Walmart, Target, Instacart, DoorDash, etc. So won't dwell on Amazon. They're huge, obviously, 18% food and beverage market share, over 100 million customers, all or most eligible for one-day delivery. Then, of course, they bought Whole Foods for $13 billion so they can put a store in your customer's backyard. Next biggest one, of course, is Walmart. They recently announced they'll be piloting with Instacart in 4 markets across the US. That is on top of last year's announcement to roll out 1,600 delivery-enabled locations over the next year, all with state-of-the-art technology. Target decided they don't want to be left behind, with Walmart and Amazon already outspending them. So let's buy 2 or 3 companies. They bought Grand Junction, and then they bought Shipt for $550 million. That is a company that has inefficient operational models, never turned a profit, and yet they're worth $550 million. That's because Target realized they had out-of-date technology, no labor force. These are 2 huge problems when launching a grocery delivery operation. More recently, Target acquired Deliv for their core technology. And so these technologies are already fully integrated into Target.com, and they've recently expanded the service to over 1,500 locations. Instacart, another unprofitable company, raising an enormous amount of money, $1.2 billion with a valuation of $14 billion. This doubled since this time last year. Probably most interesting, they claim to own 57% of the grocery market. So pushing past Walmart, making them the biggest player in the space. They hired 300,000 workers between March and April to meet surging demand, and they plan to hire at least 250,000 more. So some of you have approached delivery specifically by working with Instacart, and there's nothing wrong with that. They allowed you to get delivery started quickly, straight to the customer. Let's offer something. If we don't, we maybe get left behind. And that was a good decision then, and still in some ways a good decision now, but we'll talk about how longer term that may not be the best strategy. DoorDash, Silicon Valley's other darling, the #1 restaurant delivery provider. They've eaten all the competition across the US and are planning an IPO in the fourth quarter. 2.5 billion funding raised at a valuation of 16 billion, available in all 50 states. That's a substantial labor force, and on the surface it looks like a good option. Certainly trying to sell it as a good option for your brand to perform deliveries. But many of you already know, however, restaurant delivery and grocery delivery are two very different operational models. So when you try and fit grocery delivery into a restaurant delivery model, you get high delivery fees, 1 or 2 orders per car, and it's expensive. Some others worth mentioning, obviously a lot of folks in the space, some of whom have been around for a long time. Peapod, good example of that. Some direct-to-consumer brands, of course, Good Eggs, Fresh Direct, so they're skipping the store, going straight to the customer. Some folks that we've helped along the way, United Supermarkets, which is a success story out of Texas. We'll talk about that later. Imperfect Produce, now Imperfect Foods. They're expanding nationwide. Autonomous vehicle providers getting in the game, although they really just want to sell you an expensive vehicle. Nothing wrong with that, and maybe long-term can lower costs, but until that grocery truck can drop those off on the porch or go upstairs, there's going to be a human in the car, which is going to keep that price up. Looking at challenges with grocery delivery. Some of you have faced these already. Some of you will face them as you launch. E-commerce challenges, of course, pick and pack, last mile, and labor. So with e-commerce, let's start by talking about customer engagement, conversion, and retention. What you have done successfully inside of a store does not always translate well to an online environment. When your customer is in the store, they approach an end cap, they're more likely to buy salsa and chips. And if they're on a website, they can flip over to another brand, another website, really easily get distracted, etc. So you really have to reinvent the way you treat a customer and engage in an online setting. Data management and control. Only way to start treating a customer differently is to understand them better. So that's by collecting all this data. How are you going to collect it? How can you organize it and use that information to serve them better and suggest products in an online world? And then how can you control that in an age where data breaches and security risks are very, very real and very expensive? Pick and pack challenges there. We call it the bruised apple perception. So in some ways, we're all conditioned into this perception as consumers. We've all received restaurant delivery orders that were missing fries or have received lower quality produce. Coincidentally, I had lunch with some friends a few weeks ago, and both groups stated that they had tried but no longer use grocery delivery service for this very reason. And then pick and pack. How many different ways there are to do this? You could take the Instacart model, send somebody to roam your aisles. Now they're shopping with your customers. You can move them to a back room, try to optimize your existing real estate. You can launch a micro fulfillment center on site in the parking lot or a dedicated fulfillment center somewhere else. Reality is this is something you're going to need to make a decision on, and there is not one right choice. Last mile challenges. So this is really our area of expertise. Something to consider is chill chain. A really important question is, do I buy a refrigerated truck? Do I use cold packs, dry ice, gel packs? All of these are expensive options. Cost of delivery. This is a very important consideration, particularly when you're comparing in-house versus third party. How do we keep the cost of delivery low when we already have low margins? When you talk about using a third party like Instacart, DoorDash, or similar, that are not profitable, how do you ensure that any cost savings that they receive get passed on to you? They're probably not going to. And then lastly, labor. We talked about in-house versus outsourcing. There are pros and cons to both of these things. We lean towards in-house. It's in our nature. A lot of benefits that come from that. But we also allow our customers to integrate with third parties in order to scale to new markets, test ideas, meet peak demands. So one of the pros is service model flexibility. You can try different time windows, modes of transportation. Gives you a lot of flexibility to define what's right for your customers, what's right for you as a business. You also get to keep your brand identity. It's your van, your colors, your polo shirt. The labor quality control uses the same standards that you've upheld in the store. Whether it's service with a smile or a handshake, you get to maintain that rather than using the same labor that everyone else uses. And you have full visibility of your operations, full visibility and control of your data. The moment you give a customer to Instacart, Instacart owns that customer. They have the data. On the flip side, higher initial investment. It's a commitment. Stiff labor competition. Everyone's trying to hire gig economy workers, and it's hard enough to staff your stores. Then, of course, there's a slow operations ramp. Maybe you start with one store, have to move to 3, 5 stores. Orchestration can help here, and more commonly now, we're seeing that it's not just a pure decision of in-house versus outsourced, more commonly a hybrid approach. And then third party. We have some pros: low upfront investment, maybe no upfront investment. You can just start paying for deliveries when they happen. There's established labor coverage. We talked about Instacart and DoorDash covering the whole country, so you can get started faster. Predefined structures. Maybe you don't know what's going to work for your brand, so you want to work with somebody that in theory has it figured out for you. And then you might get a marketing boost from the partner channel. That comes with risks, limited visibility depending on the partner you're using and how much data they're going to give you. You have little control over the labor quality. You've hired someone to hire employees, so it's on their ability as managers to really improve it. And you're stuck in their service model. If you want flexibility, you won't have it unless you're a big customer or pay for it. There's no ownership of your customer data, as we've talked about, and it's going to be expensive. So obviously, shameless plug, software can help. If you take nothing away from this and you're not interested in using Onfleet, honestly, that's fine too. Most important thing is you don't have to build this yourself, and you don't have time to build it yourself. Even if you do have time to build it, you're going to build something that the folks you can buy off the shelf today did 4 years ago, and that's not going to keep you up to date with what Amazon, Target, Walmart are doing right now. So you need a reliable e-commerce system. Of all the different platforms that exist, most of these, and there's plenty to choose from. You need an order management system. Take these orders, organize them in such a fashion you can actually fulfill them. And of course, a warehouse management system. You probably already have one of these. Difference is now it needs to connect to an order management and e-com system. So either you need to replace it or you need to build new integrations. On the labor side, you don't have to do it alone. If you want, you can go out and source the labor with a labor sourcing company. This doesn't mean Instacart necessarily. This is somebody who will put folks in your pick and pack and fulfillment centers, put people in the cars, or be trained up on your software of choice with a badge that says they know what they're doing. Applicant tracking systems that are designed around the gig economy. So if you have an applicant tracking system today and it works for the store, you need something that's going to work for gig economy workers as well. There are tools for that. And tool extensions that will allow you to do background checks before that employee gets in your door, of course. So scheduling for the store is not the same thing as scheduling for delivery. You'll need a tool to help with that, or an extension on your existing tool that's more mobile friendly for a mobile worker. And lastly, our expertise, of course, is delivery management software. Whether you use us or somebody else, I encourage you to lean towards the modern side. Reason for that is it's not just asset tracking, not just fuel consumption and routing. It's the whole thing rolled together. So orchestration between third-party and in-house labor, route planning, dispatching, driver mobile apps, proof of delivery, signatures, photos, ID verification if you want to do alcohol, barcode scans if you want to do prescription drugs, customer feedback collection, communication, and of course, ETA for you and your customers. So more specific advantages that a delivery management tool will provide. You can think of this as sort of the linchpin of the whole operation. Once it's out the door, you need to have an efficient route. You need to be able to deliver an excellent customer experience. So on the route planning and optimization side, it's not just capacity, although you can expect to achieve at least a 50% improvement in capacity and efficiency if you're using a routing tool at all. But you're also going to realize pick and pack service time efficiency, and this often gets left out. If you have a route that you did just in time for the pick pack operation, they can now stage it according to the way the route is going to be delivered. They can load it into a van in the order that the route's going to be delivered. They can unload and save on service time, the time on site with your customer. So we've seen this take service times down from 18 minutes down to 7 minutes. Obviously, other factors involved with how long it's going to take, but route planning can help you through the whole process. And of course, you'll improve your on-time rates because you're not estimating based on a human's idea of when this is going to get there. If it's based on real-time and historical traffic data, and if it's updating in real time. Then, of course, most important is our customer experience. If we want to give keeping these customers, we have to give them what we expect. We have to give them proactive status updates. Data from a survey we performed last year showed that 93% of consumers think receiving an accurate ETA is important. And that's no surprise, but it's not just any ETA, an accurate ETA. So it's very important that you provide an accurate ETA. You can plan an accurate ETA with routing tools, but unless you're tracking the live location of the drivers and you're predicting delays based on the circumstances, you're not going to be able to update that as real life takes them through their deliveries. You need internal and external communication tools. Customers want to be communicated with via the platform that is most convenient for them, and currently that's dominated by mobile. But you can't just call people when they have a problem. They're not going to necessarily tell you what's going on. So you need tools that are contextually aware. So when they call you, you know what's going on. So they don't have to call you because they know what's going on. And then of course, proof of delivery. So proof of delivery used to be pretty simple. You take a picture, you say, yes, it was delivered. You collect a signature. It's now far more advanced. Barcode scans, you can scan bags, you can scan totes. Those scans will have locations and timestamps. Then of course, you need a channel to receive feedback. If you don't give customers a channel to do this, when the problem happens, they will find another channel. And unfortunately, that's Twitter, Yelp, Reddit, all the places where people complain when they don't have a channel to you. So you need to collect feedback when the problem occurs and then solve it quickly. And then of course, reporting and analytics, 30% at least improvements when you have real-time information. I would argue far more across the board when you look at this long-term, but with a delivery management platform as your source of operational truth, an organization can evaluate and iterate on a process in order to improve. Having access to real-time delivery delay rates not only allows for proactive customer service and notifications, but also the ability to identify areas for improvements in the process. Measuring service time is the first step to reducing it. Decreasing time on site with the customer creates a better experience for them and increases route capacity. An example of a recent success in grocery delivery is Texas-based United Supermarkets. They're a subsidiary of Albertsons who operate almost 100 stores. Onfleet worked with United to modernize their delivery program with a focus on operational efficiency. When we started with United Supermarkets, they had a delivery program in place. The program included many of the items discussed today, including e-commerce, refrigerated trucks, internal drivers, and basic mapping tools. Groceries were leaving the store and arriving to the customer's home. However, this was not happening in a cost-effective, efficient, and transparent manner. United Supermarkets worked closely with Onfleet to modernize the process and upgrade the manual routing and management process, replace it with an end-to-end last-mile solution. Seamless handoff of orders between systems and the use of Onfleet's best-in-class route optimization yielded significant results. Delivery capacity increased by 50% without adding any vehicles to the fleet. When you consider the cost of a refrigerated truck, this is significant. An increase in capacity combined with efficient routing provided similar results in fuel savings, which have continued to improve over time. And as a result, the program has blossomed. Growth in the program has resulted in triple-digit revenue increases year over year. Impressive. So if you're interested in more information on this, Onfleet has created a white paper on perfect grocery delivery, which you can find at onfleet.com. Really appreciate the time. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to speaking with you individually and for Q&A.